You're picking up the Doritos and you're like, whoa, pause, right? Ask yourself, why do you want to eat this? Are you really hungry or are you bored? And it's always going to be that you're bored. What's up, you guys? Welcome to the Macro Hour with Nikkiey, co-founder and brand personality of WarriorBabe, where we talk about mindset, methodologies, and tactics that will help you lose body fat, build muscle, be strong, and feel insanely confident. I am your host, Nikkiey, and welcome, my friends, to episode number 3. Today, I'm going to share with you 5 strategies to help with impulse eating. So, as a New Year's resolution of yours, it may be to get into shape. It may be to lose weight. It may be to feel better about yourself. And one of the biggest ways that you are going to do that is by learning to be in control of yourself around food. Maybe you're struggling with this. Maybe you have struggled with this. Maybe you do really well for X amount of time, and then all of a sudden you find yourself falling back into these old habits, and you just don't have a grip on trying on how to control yourself around food, how to manage your impulse. And impulse control is a big part of how you're going to do that. And that is what we're going to talk about today. Let me remind you guys too that I have been in your shoes with this. And if I can learn how to control it, so can you. Like, prior to my journey, I shared with you guys that I was obsessed with sweets and candy. And you know what, truthfully, I still am. I just have a better impulse control and mental discipline to stop me from following through on the impulse. And let me tell you this too, it will take you time, practice, and dedication to your goals. So don't get mad at yourself if one time you mess up. Don't beat yourself up. Don't tell yourself you suck. Don't tell yourself you're a failure, because you're that narrative in your head, you're going to start to believe that, and you're just going to stay stuck in that low energy and that low vibe, and you're going to stay stuck in letting the impulses control you rather than you controlling the impulses. And so when you do mess up, and it will happen, give yourself grace. Get back on track the next day. Don't let it spiral. Just be like, okay, today is a new day. You have the control of going about the day how you want to, right? Failure or mistakes is and will be a part of your journey. So just remember that. All right, let's dive into these 5 strategies to help with impulse eating. So number 1, and this is probably the most important one that you can do, and it's also one of the hardest. It's to be aware and to identify the triggers that lead to impulse eating. So one of the first steps is to reducing impulse eating. So identify the situations or the emotions that trigger the desire to eat. So maybe you're somebody that eats when you're stressed. Do you tend to snack when you're stressed or when you're bored? An example that I may use a lot in this podcast, or probably will use a lot, is the one where at nighttime, you're it's the end of the day, you're tired, you're maybe just chilling out, maybe you're bored, you find yourself in the kitchen, the pantry, and you're snacking on things, or you're watching Netflix and you're snacking on things. So identify these triggers that lead to the impulse eating. And then by identifying the triggers that lead to it, you can start to develop strategies to manage them. For example, if you snack when you're stressed, you might start to find alternative ways, but you have to be aware of this. So it's when you're in the kitchen snacking, it's whoa, here I am in the kitchen. And I'm going to get to this in a second as another strategy, but it's bringing to light the action and bringing to attention the awareness, the action that you're about to take. And then you may start to find alternative ways to cope with that stress or to cope with that boredom, and to be I'm watching TV, but I'm not going to do this, right? And you can, so in instance, for example, with the stress one, an alternative way to deal with that is okay, here I am. I'm identifying the trigger that's leading me to the impulse eating or wanting to be an impulse eater right now. I'm stressed. So instead of me going here for food, to relieve that stress, I'm going to go here, which is going on a walk, or just sitting down, being aware of the trigger that you're dealing with, and then breathing through it, practicing a relaxation technique, right? So it's instead of doing this, I'm going to do this, right? Instead of going to eat because I'm stressed, I'm going to go walk out my stress. Or this is a really good one that I used to do when you are bored at night. It's like, instead of going to eat, right, I'm going to go brush my teeth, okay? Because I personally will never eat anything after I brush my teeth. Like, that just bothers me. It's like, my mouth is clean, it's fresh. Why would I go eat something? So first one is identifying the triggers that lead to impulse eating. The second strategy is plan ahead. So another way to reduce impulse eating is to plan ahead and have healthy snacks and meals ready when you need them. This is why I love tracking macros so much, because I plan my days ahead of time. So therefore, my whole day is planned and I have control of what I'm going to be eating the next day. And I'm going to share a little secret with you towards the end of how I still incorporate treats and candy almost every single night. But so my meals, my healthy meals are already planned. So it's like a conscious interruption of like, oh, I could go get, a burger or a bad lunch with my coworker, Linda, right? And then making that decision that I'm in control of. Or it's like, no, I'm already planned ahead. I'm not going to go do that because I have my meals planned ahead of time and I'm going to stick to it. And so this can help reduce the temptation to make like unhealthy food choices when you're hungry or feeling snacky. Seriously, it's like a game changer. It's like, I want to walk down the hallway and find, my coworker Bob has these like Hershey Kisses that I just find my hands in all the time. Oh, but instead I have a healthy snack that's in the fridge that I can walk towards, and it's carrot, celery, and like ranch dip. I don't know, with like some tuna on the side, right, for your protein. So consider packing healthy snacks to take with you when you're on the go, or like preparing healthy meals in advance so you have something to grab when you're short on time. Another perfect example is like, instead of being like, oh, like I need to, run into like Wawa, which is like a gas station has a convenience store inside of it here on the East Coast. Instead of running in there and grabbing something that like, it's not probably the most healthy, it's like, no, I'm actually going to pack my meals and prepare in advance so that I have something to grab when like I'm on the go. Or like a protein bar. I love Condition 1 protein bars. They're so freaking good. And it's a great thing to grab with you instead of being like, oh my God, I'm 4 hours in, I haven't eaten, I'm starving. And then you just resort to something that's not healthy for you to get the fix. So plan ahead. Plan ahead is number 2. This third one I just touched on when we were talking about number 1 with identifying the triggers. The third one is practicing mindfulness. So like when you feel the urge to eat impulsively, try to take a moment to pause and ask yourself why you want to eat this. Like, are you really hungry or is something else going on? So I use the example of like, pausing in the moment of when you're walking, and this is like calls for so much mindfulness, so much conscious awareness, like conscious interruptions, like being aware of your surroundings and your situations and being aware of you. And so this is what I mean. Like you have to learn how to control yourself around food. And these are all really important strategies. So it's like, okay, here I am in the kitchen at night, watching Netflix, TV, I'm bored. I just had a really long, stressful day. And your mind, you find yourself in a bag of Doritos. Well, it's like before you're picking up the Doritos and you're like, well, pause, right? Ask yourself, why do you want to eat this? Are you really hungry or are you bored? And it's always going to be that you're bored. And if you are really hungry, but you've already ate what you're supposed to eat for the day, just chug a bunch of water. And then 10 minutes later, ask yourself, are you really hungry again? Or was it truly something that you were feeling emotionally? Hey, just want to drop a huge appreciation to you guys listening to the show. It means a lot. I hope you guys are enjoying it, and there's so much more to come with it. If you are enjoying it, hit the subscribe button. I'd appreciate that tons. And also, it would help this podcast reach others who need to hear these messages too. Thanks so much, guys. Let's get back to the show. Okay, so practicing mindfulness can help you become more aware of your eating habits and make more intentional choices moving forward. It can also help you recognize when you're eating for emotional reasons, like I just spoke to, rather than actual physical hunger, right? It's like, hey, I'm going to down this, 16 ounces of water because I'm feeling hungry, which there's a control in your brain, a hypothalamus that controls hunger and thirst. So you could be just thirsty, right? And you down the water and 10 minutes later, you're like, oh, that was totally an emotional trigger as to why I was hungry, or the feeling of hunger, right? And so That's practicing mindfulness can be like an absolute game changer second to identifying the triggers that lead to impulse eating. So it's like, here I am in the moment. Why do I want to eat? Am I stressed? Is it an emotional reason, or like, is it actually physically hungry? Am I actually physically hungry? Great questions to ask yourself, you guys. Like, always be asking yourself questions like that, because you're going to get answers right away. And it's just up to you to control the way that then you're acting. So that was number 3. So number 4 is find alternative ways to cope with negative emotions. So it's supernatural, you guys, like supernatural. I think majority of the world turns to food to cope with negative emotions. But, we know this can lead to like unhealthy habits and unhealthy eating patterns. And like, we want to break that. That's what we're here and why I'm speaking to this. So instead of turning to food to cope with negative emotions, try finding other ways to manage your feelings. Like I spoke to earlier, it's like, okay, here I am. I'm emotionally wanting to eat. I am triggered. Instead of the stress that I'm feeling wanting to eat, maybe I can have the stress and go for a walk, or I can go and work out, or I can go and phone a friend, talk to a friend, or I can brush my teeth, or like you're engaging in something else that it takes you away from like, it's an emotion, like you're aware, you're learning to be aware. And when you do learn to be aware, it's like, okay, how can I replace this with something else that's supportive? And how can I release like a negative emotion through going for a walk or through a workout, right? And not turning to food to cope with this. Okay, so that was number 4, finding alternative ways to cope with negative emotions. And then the last one, which I love, and this is like what we always speak to inside of WarriorBabe at first when we're coaching women, or when I used to coach women, it's like, keep unhealthy foods out of reach, like out of sight, out of mind, right? Like, it's so true. If you have a hard time resisting certain unhealthy snacks, try keeping them out of sight or out of the house altogether. Like, I love at the beginning of someone's journey, maybe this is for you. This could literally help you. New Year's, like, you had these resolutions for yourself, you have these goals in mind for yourself. So a system in place is like, I'm going to throw all of my shit out in my house that is unhealthy or doesn't support me. And like, I'm going to talk to this in a second. You're not creating a bad relationship with it. You're not restricting yourself. You're just like, this does not serve you in the moment because it has control over you right now. You don't have control over it. So until you get control over it, you have to just eliminate it right now out of reach. So like, you're moving the unhealthy foods out of reach, out of sight. Throw out everything inside of your house altogether. And then this can make it easier to avoid the impulse eating, obviously, because it's not there. So like, at the end of the night, when you're bored and you're watching Netflix, like, it's always my go-to, or you're finding yourself in the kitchen, like this example, so many people, why I use this, because so many people deal with this. And so if this happens to you and you go into the kitchen at night, you're going to be like, oh, nothing's here for me to eat. So I can't eat it. You know what I mean? So, and then this might also too help you to reconsider placing unhealthy snacks with healthier options. So like, when you go grocery store shopping, it's like, oh no, I want fruit, vegetables, or like whole grains and like protein. I want this in my house, not this other junk. And so that's the 5th one, keeping unhealthy snacks out of reach, or unhealthy foods out of reach. Throw out the shit that doesn't support you, guys. And then bring in the new that does. I'm actually going to talk a little bit more on that kind of like methodology and tactic mindset wise in another podcast to come. But like, okay, this type of food does not serve the person you want to become. So what is a food that does serve the type of person that you want to become? And you want to act on that second half, latter one, because that's who you're working towards. That's the person that you want to become, that's going to get the goals that you want to accomplish with your body composition. So, but that'll be in a later podcast. But anyway, so those are the 5 strategies to help with impulse eating. And like, if you start just breaking down at least one of them, and start, applying it daily and making small wins for yourself daily with just one of them, like, right? Practice mindfulness. I'm going to just stop myself in the middle of like realizing, now you've heard this, so it's consciously on the top of your mind at night. If you find yourself in the kitchen, it's like, interrupt. Why do I want to eat this? And ask yourself that question, right? Are you really physically hungry, or do you have an emotional response that you want to fill with this food? And practice that today, tomorrow, the next day, for a week, and then like start incorporating other things, like plan ahead, right? And like, it doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm going to apply all these 5 strategies, at once. No, that's like that's a recipe for failure. It's like, let me take one, break it down, apply it for like 2 to 3 weeks, build a habit on it. And then I can add in another one and start habit stacking on all of these. That's going to then, like, literally, you guys, if you do this and I ask you that you do, and you take this action, you will drastically see a difference with impulse eating if that's something that you struggle with in like the next 2 to 3 months, if you do this and apply it. Okay. And then remember too, I'm going to shut it down with this for the podcast today. Remember that it's okay to indulge in treats occasionally, but it's important to have healthy relationship with food overall. That's what I'm trying to deliver here in this podcast today. It's okay to indulge in treats occasionally, but like, again, you have to control your impulses. You have to control food. You can't let food control you, right? And that's why, like I already spoke to it before, and you're going to hear me speak to it more. Like, I love tracking macros so much. Macros to me isn't another diet. It is literally like a skill set and like a habit stacker, all of the things that can serve you for the rest of your life. And so I told you I was going to share with you earlier how like when I plan ahead, I always incorporate like 2 to 3 pieces of Dove dark chocolate at the end of my night, because I'm able to fit them into my macros. And so it's enough for me to curb my cravings for candy, yet still be in alignment with my goals. Like, when I only allow myself this, I'm curving it, and it stops me from wanting to eat like the whole bag. That's the skill set that comes, and like, you know, the mental discipline that also comes with tracking macros, and like, you build upon this stuff. And I know that you can do this too. It's just, you have to first do one step of like, you have to learn to control yourself around food and implement these, like, a couple strategies at once for yourself. And then like, your ultimate end goal is to then be like, wow, I can have 2 to 4 pieces of chocolate and not have the desire to down like 15, right? That's your ultimate goal, and learning the balance and learning how to have treats occasionally and ice cream and things like that. And then then that end goal is like a healthy relationship with food overall. All right. All right, you guys, I love speaking to that. The 5 strategies to help you with impulse eating. I truly, truly hope that this podcast has helped you, has served you in some way, and that you can take this stuff into actionable, takeaways and apply it for yourself in your everyday life that can lead you to the ultimate goal that I just spoke to, of being able to have a healthy relationship with food overall, learning to control yourself around food. So if this has served you and this has helped you in any way possible, please share this, take a screenshot of the podcast on your phone, put it up to like Instagram or social media, anywhere that and then tag me in it so that I'm able to see it. All right, guys, appreciate you guys, and I'll see you in the next episode.